You think you have time. That's the first mistake. When you're in your 50s, you feel seasoned, not old. When you're in your 60s, you feel experienced, not fragile. You still drive at night. You still carry your own groceries. You still believe the real decline happens to older people. I used to think that too. I am 92 now, and I can tell you with absolute certainty what begins in your 50s and 60s does not feel like an ending. It feels like nothing at all, and that's why it's dangerous. Let me tell you something no one told me. Your body does not collapse suddenly. It negotiates with you quietly, one small trade at a time. At 58, I stopped jogging. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't feel like it. My knees were a little stiff. Nothing dramatic, just a small discomfort I decided to respect. At 61, I started taking the elevator instead of the stairs. It just felt easier. At 64, I stopped sitting on the floor with my grandchildren because getting back up required too much effort. Not pain, effort. That word becomes important later. When you are in your 50s and 60s, decline does not announce itself, it whispers. And you cooperate. You call it normal aging. You call it being realistic. You call it slowing down. What you don't realize is that you are negotiating away strength you will never get back. By the time I was 75, I could not walk 3 miles anymore. By 80, climbing stairs required planning. By 84, after my stroke, I had to ask my daughter to help me put on my shoes. Shoes, something I had done for 8 decades without thinking. Here is the brutal truth. The strength you lose after 60 is almost impossible to rebuild. The balance you stop challenging disappears. The flexibility you stop using hardens. Your body keeps score, and it does not forgive indifference. I remember the last time I ran. I didn't know it was the last time. That's how it always works. You don't recognize the final version of something while you're inside it. The last time you ran without pain, lifted a heavy suitcase, carried a sleeping child to bed, got up from the floor without thinking, those moments pass quietly. No ceremony, no warning, and one day you try again, and your body refuses. If you are in your 50s right now, you still have leverage. If you are in your 60s, you still have leverage. But it is shrinking, not dramatically, subtly. And subtle changes are the ones people ignore. Lesson 1, build strength like your future depends on it, because it does. Not for vanity, not for looking good, for dignity, for independence, for the ability to stand up from a chair without assistance, for the ability to walk into a room without calculating where you might fall. I did not prepare for losing strength. I assumed it would always be there in some form. I was wrong. Your 50s and 60s are not maintenance years. They are preparation years. Preparation for the decades when your body will not negotiate kindly. And here's something even harder to hear. You are about to start losing people, and you will not be ready. When I was 62, I had 4 close friends. We met every Tuesday for lunch. We complained about our husbands. We talked about our children. We laughed about things only women who had known each other for 30 years could understand. We believed we would grow old together. We even joked about it. Tuesday girls forever. Forever is a word people use when they have not yet counted funerals. Barbara died at 75. Heart attack, quick, unexpected. We cried, we adjusted, We told ourselves these things happen. Eileen died 6 years later. Cancer. Longer, harder. Then Margaret. COVID. At 87. I am the only Tuesday girl left. I did not think loneliness would feel like this. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just quiet. Too quiet. When you are in your 50s and 60s, your social circle feels stable. It feels permanent. It is not. You are entering the decade where attendance begins to thin, where holiday tables shrink, where group chats go silent. And if you have not built new connections, you may find yourself the last one remembering stories no one else can confirm. Lesson 2. Make more friends than you think you need. You are going to lose some. Not because of conflict, not because of distance, because of time. And there is something else coming in your 50s and 60s that no one talks about enough. Identity. You believe you know who you are. You have been someone for decades. The manager, the teacher, the parent, the problem solver, the one people rely on. But your identity is more fragile than you think, and retirement will expose that fragility. I retired at 70. I thought I would feel relief. Instead, I felt invisible. For 38 years, I had been Mrs. Costello. I mattered. People needed me. My days were structured. My opinions were relevant. The day after retirement, no one called. No one needed guidance. No one asked for advice. The world continued without consulting me. It was disorienting, not dramatic, just hollow. If your job is your identity in your 50s and 60s, you are building your self-worth on something with an expiration date. And when that date comes, you will not collapse financially. You will collapse existentially. Lesson 3. Build a life outside of work before work disappears. Find something that defines you beyond productivity, because one day productivity will leave, and you will still need to know who you are. And now I need to tell you something about time. The next 30 years will move faster than the first 60. You think you understand speed. You don't. You blink at 60. You open your eyes at 75. You blink again, and you are 90. I am not exaggerating. The acceleration is real. Because routine compresses memory, and aging shortens perception. When my husband Anthony died, it took 45 minutes. 45 minutes between a normal Tuesday and permanent absence. We had been married 63 years, and his entire existence ended in less than an hour. Do you know what I thought when they called me? Not about money, not about paperwork, not about arrangements. I thought, we should have taken that trip. There is always a trip, a dinner, a phone call, a forgiveness, a we'll do it later. Later is a luxury you assume continues. It does not. If you are in your 50s or 60s right now, you are not old, but you are no longer at the beginning. You are at the edge of the most accelerated part of your life. And what you build, physically, socially, emotionally, in this decade will determine how you experience your 70s, 80s, and beyond. This is not fear. This is preparation. Your body is negotiating. Your friendships are thinning. Your identity is shifting, and time is speeding up. You still have leverage, but not as much as you think. There is something far more dangerous than a weak body. Pride. Pride in your 50s and 60s feels justified. You have lived long enough to be right. You have experience. You have perspective. You have earned your opinions. The problem is, being right has an expiration date, and sometimes it costs you years you cannot recover. When I was 67, my brother Frank and I stopped speaking. It wasn't dramatic, no screaming, no slammed doors, just a disagreement about our mother's care, money, responsibility, who was doing more, who was sacrificing more. We both believed we were right. We both believed the other one owed an apology, and neither of us wanted to be the one who reached out first. Because by your late 60s, you don't chase, you don't bend, you stand your ground. That phrase sounds strong. It is often just stubbornness dressed as dignity. 8 years. 8 years of silence. Holidays passed. Birthdays passed. Family gatherings where we avoided each other. People assumed we would reconcile eventually. We assumed it too. There's always time, we thought. He died at 79. Heart attack. Sudden. No warning. The last words I ever said to my brother were about paperwork, not forgiveness, not gratitude, not memory, paperwork. If you are in your 50s or 60s right now, ask yourself, who are you not speaking to? Who are you waiting on? What apology are you postponing because you want to win? Time does not care who is right. It only records who remained silent. Lesson 4. Do not let pride steal years from you. The satisfaction of being right fades. The absence of someone you loved does not. Now I need to talk about marriage, because this is where most people in their 50s and 60s misunderstand reality. You think you still have decades of healthy time together. You might, but you might not. And even if you do, not all of it will be the version you imagine. Anthony and I were married 63 years. That number impresses people, but numbers hide truth. The first 20 years we were building a life, raising children, exhausted. The next 15 years we were strained, busy, sometimes distant. It wasn't until our 50s that we actually slowed down enough to enjoy each other fully. We finally had money, freedom, energy. We said we would travel more in our 60s. We did some, not enough. We said we would say yes to more invitations. We didn't. We said there would be time in our 70s. And then his body began to slow. Then mine did. The active years you imagine stretch further than they actually do. The truly mobile, energetic, spontaneous years in a long marriage, they are fewer than you think. The last 10 years of our marriage were not adventurous. They were medical, appointments, medication, caregiving, adjustment. They were still loving, but they were different. If I could speak to my 60-year-old self, I would say use the good years while they are still good. Take the trip, stay out late, dance even if your knees complain. Say yes. Healthy years are a currency that disappears quietly. And then there are your children. This one will be uncomfortable. When your children are in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, you believe your role is to guide them. You have lived more. You have seen more. You know what works. But what they need from you in your 60s is not guidance. It is presence. I damaged my relationship with my son Michael because I could not stop advising him. Career choices, marriage decisions, parenting style, I believed I was helping. He believed I was correcting. There is a thin line between wisdom and control, and I crossed it more than once. At 71, we stopped speaking for 7 years. 7 years, over tone, over advice, over me not knowing when to step back. 7 years of missing birthdays, of not seeing my grandchildren, of waiting for the phone to ring. And once again, I assumed there was time. We reconciled eventually, but those 7 years are gone. You cannot rebuild shared history. You can only start again. Lesson 5. Your adult children do not need your solutions. They need your acceptance. You raised them. Now trust them. Silence can sometimes be the most loving response. There is something else that begins in your 50s and 60s. Fear, not loud fear, subtle fear. You start noticing hospital visits more. Funeral announcements feel closer. Medical tests become routine. You begin to imagine scenarios you once dismissed. You try not to think about them, but they think about you. I spent my 60s pretending decline was far away, as if ignoring it would delay it. It did not. Anthony died in 45 minutes. I had my stroke at 84. Every fear I quietly rehearsed came true. And here's what surprised me most. It did not destroy me. It changed me. It reduced me in some ways, but it did not end me. Lesson 6. Stop trying to avoid fear. Prepare for it instead. Have the conversations. Write the documents. Strengthen your body. Deepen your relationships. Preparation is not pessimism. It is respect for reality. And now, I need to tell you the hardest part, the one no one warns you about, the speed. The years between 60 and 90 move differently. You wake up one day and you are 72. You blink and you are 80. You blink again and people are calling you 90. There is no dramatic shift, just compression. Memory blurs. Decades fold. The woman I was at 60 feels like someone I once met, not someone I was. Lesson 7. The next 30 years will pass faster than the first 60. You cannot slow them. You cannot bargain with them. You can only be present inside them. If you are in your 50s or 60s right now, this is not a warning about death. It is a warning about inattention, about assuming there will always be another decade, another conversation, another healthy season. There might be, but it will not feel as long as you imagine. It was a Tuesday. There is something unsettling about ordinary days becoming permanent memories. Anthony left the house around 10 in the morning. He said he needed a part from the hardware store. He kissed my cheek. Not dramatically, not as if it were the last time, just routine. Routine is deceptive. I was making a grocery list when the phone rang. I almost didn't answer. I assumed it was a telemarketer. That decision, answering, divided my life into before and after. A stranger's voice, calm, careful. They said there had been a medical emergency. They said I should come quickly. I remember grabbing my purse and realizing I didn't know where I had placed my glasses. Details become strangely sharp in moments like that. The drive felt both endless and too short. By the time I arrived, everything had already changed. There was nothing dramatic, no cinematic goodbye, no final speech, just stillness. 45 minutes earlier, he had been choosing plumbing fittings. Now the aisle was quiet. That's how quickly a shared life can shift. We had been married 63 years. 63. And it ended in less than an hour. If you are in your 50s or 60s right now, hear me carefully. You imagine you will see the transition coming. You imagine there will be warning signs, preparation, time to adjust emotionally. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. The hardest part was not the paperwork, not the house feeling too large, not sleeping on one side of the bed. It was the realization that we had postponed small joys. We had assumed we had more healthy years, more trips, more spontaneous dinners, more long walks. We weren't reckless. We weren't careless. We were just comfortable. Comfort can quietly steal urgency. In your 50s and 60s, comfort feels earned. You have stability, routine, predictability. But comfort can turn into postponement. We'll do it next year. Let's wait until things settle. Maybe when work slows down. Work never fully slows down. Life never fully settles. And next year is never guaranteed. After Anthony was gone, the house became too quiet. Silence behaves differently when it replaces a voice you've heard for decades. I would reach for him in the dark out of habit. Muscle memory doesn't understand absence. I still talk to him at night. Not because I believe he answers, but because conversation was the rhythm of our life. And rhythms don't stop immediately just because one voice is missing. If you are married right now in your 50s or 60s, count your truly healthy years, not your theoretical years, your healthy, energetic, mobile years. They are fewer than you think. Use them, not extravagantly, but intentionally. Stay longer at the dinner table. Take the inconvenient trip. Say yes more often than no, because decline does not ask permission. And here's something else I need you to understand. Everything I feared in my 60s eventually happened. I lost my husband. I experienced serious health setbacks. I lost independence. Every quiet fear became real. And yet, I am still here. I still laugh. I still enjoy coffee in the morning. I still find beauty in small things. The fear was worse than the reality. What destroys people is not aging, it is denial. If you are in your 50s or 60s, do not deny what is coming. Prepare for it. Strengthen your body. Repair your relationships. Organize your finances. Write your wishes down. Have the uncomfortable conversations now, not because something terrible is around the corner, but because preparation is a form of love. There is one more truth I want to leave you with. The last 30 years moved differently. You do not feel older in proportion to the number. Inside, I still feel 45 some days, but the calendar moves faster than your perception. You blink at 60. You blink at 75. You blink again, and people are celebrating your 90th birthday. Time compresses. That is not poetic exaggeration. It is neurological. Routine shortens memory. Familiarity accelerates perception. If you want these years to feel longer, pay attention. Novelty stretches time. Presence deepens it. Connection anchors it. Distraction erases it. If I could sit across from my 58-year-old self right now, I would not frighten her. I would not scold her. I would hold her shoulders and say, do not drift through this decade. Because your 50s and 60s are not an extension of youth. They are the foundation of old age. And old age is not a disaster. It is a narrowing of energy, of circle, of physical capacity. What determines whether that narrowing feels peaceful or frightening is what you built beforehand. I am 92 years old. I have outlived almost everyone I loved. That is not tragic. It is simply what happens if you live long enough. What matters is not how long you live. It is how awake you were while living. If you were in your 50s or 60s, you still have leverage, more than you realize, but less than you assume. Use it. Call the person. Forgive the mistake. Strengthen your body. Sit longer at the table. Go on the walk. Because one ordinary Tuesday, your life will divide into before and after, and you will wish you had paid more attention.